What if the sun no longer decided when your day began? What if the seasons, once the absolute governors of your survival, suddenly became irrelevant to the pace of your pulse? Can you imagine a world where the horizon is not defined by trees, but by the jagged, soot-stained silhouette of a red brick monolith? Why did thousands of families abandon the predictable silence of the hills for the chaotic shriek of iron? How did a wooden clock, ticking on a factory wall, become more powerful than the divine light of a New England morning? You likely believe that the Industrial Revolution was a slow transition of gears and steam, a gradual shift in the way objects were made. But for you, standing on the frozen mud of a Massachusetts road in 1840, it is a violent severance from everything your ancestors knew. The air here does not smell of damp earth or pine needles anymore. It carries the heavy metallic scent of anthracite coal and the cloying sweetness of raw cotton decomposing in the humidity. You feel the vibration before you see the source. It is a low, rhythmic thrumming that seems to originate from the very bedrock beneath your boots, a mechanical heartbeat that has replaced the erratic sounds of nature. As you approach the massive gates of the textile mill, the scale of the structure swallows the sky. 6 stories of uniform windows stare back at you like thousands of glass eyes, reflecting a sun that no longer matters. Inside those walls, the concept of a day has been dismantled. It is no longer a cycle of dawn and dusk, but a series of rigid segments measured by the ringing of a brass bell that cuts through the atmosphere like a blade. You enter the boarding house, the transitional space between your old life and this new mechanical reality. The air inside is dense, a thick soup of human breath, boiled cabbage, and the smell of wet wool drying near a cramped hearth. Space is a luxury you have just surrendered. You share a narrow bed with 3 other girls, the straw mattress rustling with every collective breath. The walls are thin, vibrating with the distant, eternal groan of the water wheels that drive the looms across the street. There is no privacy, only the relentless proximity of other bodies governed by the same unrelenting schedule. You touch the wood of the banister and feel the grease of 1,000 hands. The light is dim, filtered through windows coated in a fine layer of industrial dust that turns the afternoon into a perpetual sickly grey. You are no longer a daughter of the soil. You are a unit of time. Every movement you make from this moment forward must be synchronized with 1,000 other movements. If you hesitate, the system falters. If you sleep past the bell, the gears of the economy grind against your absence. This is the rupture. The world of the farm where the rain dictated the work is dead. Here the steam engine creates its own weather, its own heat, and its own relentless pace. You are being integrated into a machine that does not breathe, does not tire, and does not care for the fatigue in your bones. The transition is not merely physical, it is a psychological reconstruction of your soul. You are learning to ignore the birds and listen only for the whistle. You are learning that your value is now measured in yards of fabric and minutes of attendance. This transformation is deep, painful, and irreversible. Yet it is the foundation of the modern world you will eventually build. As we descend further into this mechanical heart, you will begin to understand that the factory did not just produce cloth, it produced a new kind of human being. To ensure you don't lose your way in this labyrinth of history and continue to uncover the hidden mechanisms of our past, check if you are already subscribed to this channel. Subscribing is the only way to guarantee that the bell of knowledge keeps ringing for you, bringing the most immersive and deeply researched historical documentaries directly to your screen before the rest of the world sees them. You stand now at the threshold of the weave room. The noise is no longer a distant thrum, it is a physical assault. The floorboards beneath your feet are polished to a dangerous slickness by years of spilled oil. You see the leather belts overhead, thousands of them, crisscrossing the ceiling like a web of brown veins, delivering power from the river to the iron skeletons of the looms. The heat is the first thing that truly breaks your spirit. It is a wet, suffocating warmth, maintained intentionally to keep the cotton threads from snapping under tension. Your skin becomes a magnet for the flyings, the tiny white particles of cotton dust that float in the air like a lethal snow. They coat your eyelashes, your hair, and most importantly, the delicate lining of your lungs. Every breath is a struggle against this invisible invasion. You watch the other workers, their movements blurred by the speed of the shuttles flying back and forth. They don't speak. They can't. They have developed a language of signs and lip reading, a secret dialect born of necessity, in an environment where human speech is drowned by the roar of progress. You are mesmerized by the hypnotic repetition, the way the steel arms of the machinery rise and fall with a precision that makes human effort seem clumsy and erratic. The contrast is jarring. Outside, the world might still be waking up to a slow colonial rhythm. But inside these brick walls, the future has arrived with a terrifying, clattering speed. You feel a strange sense of insignificance, as if you are a mere ghost haunting the interior of a giant, living organism made of brass and wood. The boarding house was the waiting room. The factory floor is the altar of the new age. There is no turning back to the fields. The smell of the river is gone, replaced by the smell of hot oil and scorched metal. You take your place at the machine, your hands trembling as they reach for the first thread. The bell rings again, signaling the start of a 12-hour shift that will blur the lines between your body and the iron. You are now part of the pulse. You are a cog in the experience factory, and the 1840s have only just begun to demand your sacrifice. The weight of the ceiling seems to press down on your shoulders, a reminder that the architecture of this life is designed for production, not for people. Every brick was laid with the intent of maximizing output, and every window was placed to ensure that no shadow could hide a moment of rest. You are immersed in a reality where the only thing that flows faster than the river is the capital generated by your exhaustion. The atmosphere is heavy with the scent of a changing nation, a smell that will linger in the nostrils of history for centuries to come. You are the witness to the birth of the American machine, and the price of admission is your very sense of self. You step onto the floor of the weaving room, and the world as you knew it ceases to exist. There is no air here, only a vibrating suspension of cotton dust that feels like breathing through a thick, wet veil. The sound is not a noise, but a physical assault, a rhythmic thundering of thousands of iron looms that hits your chest with the force of a tidal wave. You are no longer an individual with a name or a history. You have become a biological extension of the machine. Your hands move not by will, but by the frantic necessity of the mechanical pulse. You watch the shuttles, those heavy wooden projectiles tipped with pointed steel, as they fly back and forth at a blinding speed. They are the weavers of wealth, but they are also the instruments of a silent, creeping mortality. To thread them, you must perform the ritual known as the kiss of death. You lean down, pressing your lips to the small hole in the shuttle, and you suck the thread through with a sharp inhalation. In that single moment, you are not just drawing in the cotton. You are pulling the oily lint and the microscopic fibers of the previous worker's breath directly into the deepest recesses of your lungs. It is a cold, metallic intimacy with the machine that leaves a bitter taste of grease and sickness on your tongue. The air is kept intentionally humid, a sweltering, stagnant heat designed to keep the threads from snapping under the tension of the high-speed weaving. This moisture binds the dust to your skin, turning your clothes into a heavy, damp second skin that chafes against your exhaustion. You see the flyings everywhere, tiny white flecks of cotton that dance in the shafts of light like cursed snowflakes, coating the machinery and the people until everyone looks like a ghost in a graveyard of iron. You are trapped in a forest of leather belts. Above you, the ceiling is a chaotic web of moving straps, all connected to the great shaft that draws power from the river outside. One slip, one loose strand of hair, or one momentary lapse in concentration, and the machine will claim a part of you. You have heard the stories of girls whose scalps were torn away in a heartbeat, or whose fingers were crushed into pulp by the relentless gears. There is no stopping the loom for a single injury. The power flows from the water, and the water does not care for human pain. You begin to realize that your agency has been traded for a wage that barely covers the cost of your shared bed in the boarding house. You do not decide the pace. The loom decides for you. You do not decide when to blink. The shuttle dictates the rhythm of your eyes. You are a captive of the weave, a servant to the gargantuan appetite of the 1840s textile industry. The repetition is hypnotic and soul-crushing. Every few minutes a bobbin runs empty, and you must replace it with a speed that defies your fatigue. If the loom stands idle for even a minute, the overseer's eyes are upon you, a silent, predatory presence watching from the shadows of the tall windows. He measures your worth in yards, not in humanity. You look at the woman next to you, her face a mask of pale determination, her cough a dry, hacking sound that is lost in the roar of the machinery. You wonder how many kisses of death she has given to the shuttles today. You wonder how much of the factory she carries inside her body, slowly hardening her lungs into stone. The contrast between the delicate lace being produced and the brutal environment of its creation is a profound irony that you feel in every aching joint. This is the industrial womb, where the modern world is being birthed through the labor of those who are rapidly becoming indistinguishable from the iron they tend. You are witnessing the erosion of the human spirit in favor of a mechanical perfection that knows no fatigue. The looms breathe for you, they think for you, and eventually they will replace the very memory of your independence. It is a structural cage of progress, and you are the bird trapped within its gilded, grease-stained bars. As you stand there, swallowed by the roar and the dust, you feel a connection to every soul that has ever been sacrificed to the altar of efficiency. It is a heavy, somber realization that lingers long after the shift ends. If this story of the hidden cost of our modern comforts has touched a nerve deep within you, I want you to take a moment to acknowledge the weight of this history. Leave a comment below with the phrase, "My soul is not for sale to the machine." Let those words be a testament to the human spirit that refuses to be crushed by the gears of time. Your voice is the only thing the factory cannot automate. The light begins to fade outside, but the lamps are lit and the work continues. The transition from day to night is meaningless here. The loom does not sleep, and therefore neither can your vigilance. You feel the vibration in your teeth, a constant reminder that you are part of something much larger and much colder than yourself. The 1840s are not just a decade, they are a blueprint for a world that prioritizes the product over the producer. You reach out once more, your lips meeting the cold wood of the shuttle, and you take another breath of the factory's toxic soul. The cycle repeats, over and over, until the person you were before the gates opened feels like a dream from a distant, forgotten life. You are the heartbeat of the mill, but your heart is breaking under the strain of the rhythm. The heat intensifies as the oil on the gears begins to smoke slightly, adding a pungent chemical layer to the atmosphere. You find yourself watching the clock on the far wall, but the hands move with an agonizing slowness that feels like a physical weight. Every second is a battle against the desire to simply close your eyes and let the noise consume you. But the noise is your master now. It dictates the movement of your blood and the frequency of your thoughts. You have become a ghost in the machine, a silent witness to the dawn of an era that will eventually cover the entire world in the same red brick and soot. This is the breath of the loom, a hot, dusty, and unrelenting force that has reshaped the very fabric of human existence. You are here in the center of the storm, and the only way out is through the long, dark hours of the night. The machinery is the only thing that remains vibrant and alive, while the humans around it slowly fade into the gray background of the industrial age. The structural reality of your life is now defined by the tension of a thread and the speed of a gear. It is a fragile, dangerous stability that could shatter at any moment, leaving you broken in the wake of progress. You are the fuel for this fire, and the fire is hungry. You step away from the loom for a fleeting moment, but your body still carries the ghost of its vibration. You are now observing the bones of the machine itself, the architecture of the mill. This is not merely a building of brick and mortar. It is a physical manifesto of control, a structure designed to enforce obedience through its very geometry. You look up at the towering walls of the Merrimack or the Lowell mills, and you realize that every window, every staircase, and every corridor was drafted with a single purpose: surveillance. The overseer stands on a raised platform, his desk positioned at the exact longitudinal axis of the room, allowing his gaze to sweep across hundreds of workers without moving his head. You are always visible. You are never alone. This is the panopticon of the industrial age, where the walls themselves seem to whisper that your time belongs to another. The air grows colder as you descend from the roar of the upper floors toward the foundations. Here in the belly of the mill, the light dies. You enter the damp subterranean tunnels where the massive water wheels churn. The walls here are weeping with condensation, a slick, black moisture that smells of ancient river silt and stagnant oil. The ceiling is low, forcing you to stoop, a physical act of submission to the weight of the industry above your head. In these cellars, the children, the scavengers, crawl beneath the spinning gears to clear the lint that clogs the works. Their small frames are the only things that can fit in these mechanical crevices, a terrifying synergy between fragile bone and unyielding iron. You feel the crushing density of the atmosphere, a stark contrast to the world outside the gates. The transition is not just atmospheric, it is a brutal social hierarchy etched into the landscape. You walk to the window and look past the smokestacks toward the hill. There, bathed in the soft glow of the setting sun, stands the owner's mansion. It is a temple of Greek revival architecture, with white pillars that gleam like ivory against the soot-stained sky. Between you and that mansion lies a chasm that no amount of labor can bridge. While you share a room with 6 others in a cramped boarding house, he breathes air filtered by gardens of roses and lilac. While your ears ring with the scream of the spindles, he listens to the silence of mahogany-lined libraries. The building you inhabit was designed to maximize your output. His home was designed to display his triumph over your sweat. This structural inequality is the very engine of the 1840s. The mill owner does not see you as a person, but as a variable in an equation of profit, a biological component that must be maintained just enough to prevent it from breaking entirely. The stairs you climb every morning are steep and narrow, designed to move bodies quickly to their stations and discourage any lingering conversation. The doors are heavy, weighted to swing shut with a finality that severs you from the natural world. Even the bells that command your movements are tuned to a frequency that bypasses reason and speaks directly to your nerves. You are living within a giant clockwork orange, a world where the organic has been paved over by the synthetic. The stability of the entire American economy rests on this rigid, vertical organization. Without the seller's damp toil, there is no fabric. Without the fabric, there is no mansion on the hill. The fragility of your existence is the price of his abundance. You feel the weight of this realization pressing against your chest, heavier than the mill itself. If this exploration of the invisible structures that shaped our ancestors' lives is revealing a side of history you've never considered, take a moment to leave a like on this video. Your support is the fuel that allows us to continue excavating these hidden narratives and bringing the visceral reality of the past into the light of the present. Every like helps break the silence of the old mills. You return to the main floor, and the contrast is blinding. The sun hits the glass of the factory windows, creating a glare that obscures the view of the world outside, trapping you in a shimmering cage of light and dust. You realize that the architecture of obedience is not just about keeping you in. It is about keeping the truth of your condition out of sight. The thick brick walls act as a silencer, muffling the cries of the exhausted, so that the town outside only hears the steady, productive hum of progress. You are part of a secret history, a story written in the mortar of these walls and the grease on these floors. The very layout of the town follows this logic, with the boarding houses arranged like barracks, ensuring that even in your sleep, you are under the shadow of the chimney stacks. There is no escape from the geometry of the machine. Your movements from the bed to the loom and back again are as predictable as the rotation of a gear. The architecture has colonized your autonomy, turning your walk into a march and your rest into a mere recharging of a battery. You look at the bricks, each one fired in a kiln and placed by hand, and you wonder how many lives are buried in the foundations of this industrial empire. The permanence of the building mocks the transience of your health. The mill will stand for 100 years, long after your lungs have failed and your name has been forgotten by the ledgers. This is the ultimate triumph of the structure over the soul. The organization of space has become the organization of the human spirit, a blueprint for a society that values the speed of the weave over the depth of the breath. As the day grinds on, the walls seem to move closer, the ceiling lower, until the factory is no longer a place where you work, but a place that has swallowed you whole. You are a prisoner of the design, a cog in a masterpiece of functional cruelty. The 1840s are not just a point in time, but a physical space that you are forced to inhabit, one brick at a time, until there is nothing left of the girl who once dreamed of the open fields. The architecture has won. It has taught you to obey without a single word being spoken. You take your place again, your feet finding the worn grooves in the floorboards, matching the movements of those who came before you and those who will surely come after. The cycle is complete, and the building remains silent, watching you with its 1,000 glass eyes. The vibration has now moved from the floor into your very marrow, a permanent resonance that you carry home like a heavy, invisible burden. You notice that the world outside the mill gates has become unnervingly quiet, but it is not because the world has changed. It is because you are fading. The high-frequency scream of the spindles has carved a hollow space in your hearing, a dullness that makes the song of a bird or the voice of a sister sound like they are echoing from the bottom of a deep, mossy well. This is the first sacrifice of the fragile cog, the loss of the subtle. You are being refined by the machine, stripped of your extra senses until only the ones necessary for production remain. Your skin, once tanned by the New England sun, is now a translucent, sickly parchment, stained with the grey shadow of mill fever. It begins as a persistent tickle in the throat, a dry cough that tastes of cotton and copper, before escalating into a shivering heat that burns through your meager rest. Your body is rejecting the atmosphere of the 1840s, yet there is no medicine for a life lived in a box of lint. The erosion is not merely physical, it is a calculated economic strangulation. You receive your wages not in the gold of the Republic, but in the paper scrip of the corporation, a currency that is only valid within the shadow of the chimney stacks. When you walk into the company store to buy a simple loaf of bread or a yard of ribbon, you find the prices inflated, a parasitic loop that ensures every cent earned by your sweat eventually flows back into the mahogany coffers of the men on the hill. You are a captive of a closed system, a ghost whose labor pays for its own chains. The progress of the nation is being fueled by your gradual dissolution, a terrifying trade where the strength of the American loom is measured by the weakness of your pulse. You see your friends' fingers gnarled and stained, their joints swollen from the repetitive dance of the frame, and you realize that the machine is the only thing growing younger and stronger here. While the iron is polished and oiled, you are allowed to rust. The tension between the gleaming finished product and your broken frame is the true story of the industrial age, a story of human erosion sold as national destiny. This reality is a heavy truth that many choose to ignore, yet it is the foundation of our modern world. If you believe this hidden cost of history deserves to be seen by those who only know the finished product, please share this video with someone who values the raw truth behind the machines. By sharing, you help give a voice to the millions of silent cogs who built the world we now inhabit, ensuring their struggle is not lost to the dust of time. You watch a younger girl enter the room, her eyes wide with the same wonder you once felt, and you want to scream a warning, but the roar of the loom swallows your voice before it can leave your lips. You are no longer a person. You are a unit of wear and tear, a consumable part of a grand, clattering experiment. The structural fragility of your life is now exposed. A single week of sickness means the loss of your bed, and a single mistake on the floor means the loss of your hand. You are walking a tightrope made of cotton thread, suspended over an abyss of poverty and silence. The factory does not hate you, for hatred requires a soul. It simply processes you, turning your youth into capital and your health into fabric. You look at your hands, covered in the flyings that look like frost, and you realize you are being frozen in time, a relic of an era that views your exhaustion as the inevitable price of a rising star. The 1840s are not a time of hope for you. They are a time of endurance, a long grey tunnel where the only light is the spark of a flint or the glow of a lamp. You are the fuel, and the fire is indifferent to the pain of the wood it burns. Every yard of cloth that leaves this room carries a microscopic piece of your life within its weave, a DNA of suffering that will be worn by people who will never know your name. You are the invisible architect of the American century, but your reward is a cough that will not end and a debt that cannot be paid. The machinery continues its relentless, rhythmic demand, and you find yourself bowing your head once more, moving your arms in the same arc you have performed 10,000 times today. The erosion is almost complete. You are becoming the iron, cold and predictable, while the iron becomes the master of the house. This is the ultimate transformation of the industrial age, where the living become the tools and the tools become the lifeblood of the earth. You are the fragile cog in a machine that never sleeps, and the night is still very long. The oil drips from the gears like black blood, and you reach for the next bobbin with a hand that no longer feels like your own. The weight of the ceiling feels closer now, a physical manifestation of the economic trap that has closed around your life. You are the ghost in the machine, a whisper of humanity lost in the thunder of the 1840s. Chapter 5. The Ghost in the Machine. As the final bell of the shift rings, the silence that follows is not a relief. It is a vacuum that pulls the air from your lungs. You stand in the sudden stillness of the weave room, and for a fleeting second, you wonder if you still exist when the gears aren't moving. What was lost in this transition to the mechanical? You search for the memory of the wind in the cornstalks, but all you can conjure is the rhythmic thrum of the water wheel. The American soul has been reconfigured here, traded for a precision that leaves no room for the erratic beauty of the human spirit. You are the ancestor of a world that values the clock over the heartbeat, a world where the ghost of the 1840s worker still haunts every digital screen and every automated line. This elevation from the concrete to the symbolic reveals the true legacy of the factory. We did not just build machines, we built a way of being that treats the soul as a byproduct of production. The contrast between your exhaustion and the cold, immortal efficiency of the mill is the permanent scar on the face of modernity. You walk out into the cold night air, the soot falling like black snow on your shoulders, and you realize that you are the bridge between a world of earth and a world of glass. The 1840s were the crucible where the individual was melted down to form the collective strength of an empire. As you fade into the shadows of the boarding house, the questions remain. Who are we when the machines stop? Are we still capable of the silence we once knew? Check if you are already subscribed to this channel to keep exploring these deep human truths. If you watched until here it is because you liked this case, leave a comment saying "Eu assisti até aqui" so I can get to know you and know who really likes the stories here on the channel. Please like this video and share it with those who seek the soul behind the history. The factory is silent now, but the ghost is still there waiting to be remembered. As the final bell of the day rings, the sound does not bring a sense of liberation, but a vacuum that pulls the very air from your exhausted lungs. You stand in the sudden, ringing stillness of the weave room, and for a fleeting second, you are struck by a terrifying question. Do you still exist when the gears stop moving? What was truly lost in this violent transition to the mechanical? You search within the corridors of your memory for the smell of rain on sun-warmed soil or the erratic, beautiful song of a bird in the cornstalks, but all you can conjure is the rhythmic, artificial thrum of the water wheel. The American soul was reconfigured in these brick cathedrals, traded for a precision that leaves no room for the organic pace of the human spirit. You are the ancestor of a world that has learned to value the clock over the heartbeat, a world where the ghost of the 1840s worker still haunts every digital screen, every automated line and every notification that demands your immediate attention. This elevation from the concrete soot to the symbolic reality reveals the true, enduring legacy of the factory. We did not just build machines to serve us. We built a functional way of being that treats the human soul as a mere byproduct of production. The contrast between your profound, bone-deep exhaustion and the cold, immortal efficiency of the iron loom is the permanent scar on the face of our modernity. You walk out of the heavy gates into the biting night air, the soot falling like black snow on your tired shoulders, and you realize with a jolt of clarity that you are the bridge between a world of earth and a world of glass. The 1840s were the crucible where the individual was melted down to form the collective industrial strength of an empire. As you fade into the long shadows of the boarding house, the questions linger in the cold air. Who are we when the machines finally stop? Are we still capable of inhabiting the silence we once knew before the era of the spindle? The stability of our current life is built upon the fragile, broken bones of those who first learned to march to the beat of a gear. The transition is complete, and the machine has won. To ensure you never lose touch with these deep human truths, and continue to explore the hidden mechanisms of our shared history, check if you are already subscribed to this channel. Your presence here ensures that the stories of those who were silenced by the roar of progress are finally heard. If you watched until here it is, because you liked this case, leave a comment saying, "Eu assisti até aqui," so I can get to know you and know who really likes the stories here on the channel. It is your engagement that keeps the memory of these workers alive against the erosion of time. Please take a moment to like this video to honor the resilience of the human spirit and share it with those who seek the raw soul behind the cold history of our machines. The factory stands silent in the moonlight now, a monument to a sacrifice that never truly ended. You look back at the dark windows one last time, feeling the vibration still humming in your teeth, a ghost of the machine that will follow you into your dreams and into the future of a nation that has forgotten how to rest. The stars above are dim, obscured by the lingering haze of industry, reminding you that the sky itself has been altered by our ambition. You are no longer just a person. You are a legacy of labor, a whisper of humanity caught in a web of iron and steam. The architecture of your life has been set in stone and brick, yet within the quiet pulse of your own heart, there remains a spark that no gear can capture. We are the children of the 1840s, still trying to find our way back to the rhythm of the seasons, while the clock on the wall continues its relentless, indifferent count. The story of the mill is the story of us all, a journey from the sunlight into the shadow of the machine, searching for a meaning that cannot be manufactured. You close your eyes, and the roar of the looms begins to fade into the sound of the river, a reminder that nature still flows beneath the foundations of our progress, waiting for the moment we remember how to listen to the silence once more. The 1840s were just the beginning of a long, clattering road that has led us to this very moment. You are the witness, the survivor, and the ghost. The light of the boarding house candle flickers, casting long, distorted shadows against the wall, mimicking the movement of the belts you tended all day. Even in the stillness of your room, the factory occupies your mind, its logic colonizing your thoughts and its demands shaping your rest. This is the ultimate triumph of the industrial age. It does not end when the shift is over. It lives within the structure of our society, the way we measure our days, and the way we value our very existence. The ghost in the machine is not a haunting from the past, but a reflection of our current reflection. We carry the soot in our heritage and the rhythm in our blood. As the candle dies out, you are left in the dark, a singular point of consciousness in a world of massive, unyielding structures. The legacy of the 1840s is not found in the museums, but in the mirror. We are the product of the factory, refined and polished, yet still yearning for the wild, unmeasured freedom of the hills that our ancestors left behind. The mechanical heartbeat continues, faint but steady, echoing through the centuries, to remind us of the price of our modern comforts. You are here, part of the continuum, a silent participant in the ongoing dialogue between the human hand and the iron gear. The shift is over, but the story is eternal. It is a narrative of endurance, of the fragile cog that refused to break even when the world demanded its total dissolution. You breathe in the cold night air, and for the first time today, the breath belongs only to you. It is a small victory, but in the heart of the industrial age, it is everything. The machine is silent, the river is flowing, and for now you are free to dream of a world without bells. This is the final revelation that despite the brick, the oil, and the roar, the spirit remains a ghost that no machine can truly master. We are the echo of that first mechanical scream, still searching for the harmony that was lost in the weave. The 1840s fade into the mist of history, but the heartbeat of the worker remains, a steady pulse in the dark, waiting for the dawn.